with one phone call, got me a job at Community First Bank, and 17-year-old Caleb who looked like he was 12. But you are your greatest asset. What if you just became more valuable? Like every part of your life would get better.
Everyone watching this, everyone listening to this, you were born to do something great with your life. It's your job to figure out what it is.
Warren Buffett is worth a lot of money. Sometimes I don't think we can even comprehend how much money that is. He's 93 years old. You and I wouldn't trade places with him.
Not in a heartbeat.
You didn't even have to think about that.
That's the first time on the Mr. Burr show that the guest has spoke directly to the camera. I love it, dude.
This is the enhancer to helping people show up powerfully in their life. And I was like, if people understood this, it would help them be more efficient.
I'm blown away, man, honestly, how much wisdom you have at such a young age.
This is the Mr. Burr Show.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Today is such an exciting episode. Everyone that's been watching, you guys know I talk about infinite banking, and nothing has been about infinite banking on my show yet. However, I learned about the concept almost 4 years ago, and when I did, I read this book. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening, it's The and Asset. Talks about infinite banking. I was so intrigued by this book because it sounds like it was written by a fourth grader, but it wasn't. It was written by the person I have on the show today. This man was literally the head of an investment division at a bank at 19 years old. At 22, he wrote this book. He's only 27 now and is making huge splashes in the industry for building wealth, how to be more efficient with your money, infinite banking, life insurance, you name it. The guy is a wealth of knowledge. And I almost have to pinch myself to say, I read his book almost 4 years ago, and now he's on my podcast. Insane. So guys, thanks for tuning in. You're going to get a ton of value from this. When you do, share it with all your friends and family, everyone that you love, everyone who you think they could do a little better financially. This man will help. So without further ado, Caleb Guilliams.
Man,
welcome to the show, dude.
It is an honor to be on. I got goosebumps as you were just sharing the intro. It's an honor to be here, and I feel like the bar is set high, so I'm going to do my best to make this not just entertaining, but educational. And, man, I appreciate what you're doing and excited to be on.
Thank you. Well, you deserved a very high intro because, dude, I look back to 3.5, 4 years ago when I heard about this concept of infinite banking, and I'm like, my mind exploded. If this is real, this is the Swiss Army knife of financial tools. It can do so many things. I need to learn more. Yep. So I started getting books and all this stuff. Your book was the second book I read. Wow. First one was Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And then when I read your book, and I turned to the back of it, and I saw you look like you're 5. Bro.
You're like, this person definitely doesn't have his license.
No. So if we can get Jacob to edit this on the YouTube and zoom into this picture of Caleb. So this is when you were 21, 22?
Yep.
You looked like, bro, you just graduated 5th grade.
Yep. Story. It's part of the story.
So let's get into that. Tell me the story of how Caleb Guilliams, the oldest of what, 6?
Oldest of 6, yeah.
Became the head of investment branch at a bank. And let's just start there.
So I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My dad was a doctor. PhD molecular biologist, studied, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps because, I respected and loved my dad. My mom, was homeschooled us. So that was another unique thing, part of our story. And I remember being in 8th grade, and I remember taking biology really seriously. And I remember going through and being I can't do this. This is I'm definitely I got a couple different genes in my dad, and this is just not clicking. And it's really important for you to know that a lot of people, when they read the book, they're like, wow, it feels like a 4th grader wrote this book. And what is a part of my story is I am heavily dyslexic.
Same.
I can barely read. Writing is it's crazy to me that my name is on a book, if you can even call it that, because it's yes, it's a book, but it's not I wouldn't put it up there with any of the great literature pieces. But at the end of the day, I've always been a kid that wanted to do the best thing. Like I've always been an old soul. And I remember this story. It's just, it paints the picture of like why I'm doing what I'm doing and how I discovered the and asset and how we've talked about it. Is I remember being at a Christian camp growing up, and I'm 12, 13 years old. I'm into girls, I'm super short for my age. My younger sister was taller than me, and so it was just like an insecurity. Like I already looked like I was 8 years old, and then I couldn't read. And so like the insecurities of even like apples to apples, like what a horrible game when you can't read, of like, mispronouncing names and all of that. And so I was like very aware of that. And I remember at the last day of camp, we had these skits in front of our peer group. And I remember getting up in front of my peers. I was terrified, which is maybe crazy for you to believe, but I was afraid.
Because you're a great public speaker.
I was terrified. I was insecure. I only had to remember 2 lines. And man, I just like blanked, and I pulled out my note card and mumbled through my 2 lines. I don't even remember what the play was about. I do remember like at 12, 13 years old, walking off like a total failure. The next day I go to my mom, and I'm in tears. I'm like, Mom, I look like I'm 8 years old. I can't read. Am I going to amount to anything? And being homeschooled was such a blessing, but also I didn't know where I stood. I didn't know if I was going to get into college. I didn't know any of this. And my mom said something very, very important to me. She's like, Caleb, the things that you can't control, don't worry about. Like your identity does not come from the things you can't control. But the things that you can control, which, by the way, is most things in our life.
Right.
The things that you can control, you have a moral obligation to go all in on that. And at 12, 13 years old, I remember making a decision that I was going to do my very best to, number one, not be a victim, but I was going to do my very best to like work my tail off to learn as much as I could so that I could take control of this thing that we call life. Didn't know anything really about money, but I did know that like I wanted something more. And so fast forward, always been entrepreneurial. My parents are not entrepreneurs, but being homeschooled kind of gives you in that environment. So my first job was baking bread, Caleb's Kitchen, and I would bake 8 loaves of bread and sell them. And so I got a taste of entrepreneurship. I got a job at a chicken farm where I literally gutted chickens and made $1 for every chicken that I processed.
So you got quick.
Dude, I was fast. I could process a chicken from like defeathered to in the tank less than a minute.
Really?
I'm quick.
So you're making like $50-$60 an hour.
Yes. The thing is, you only get paid for processing, and so there's other things like cleaning and all this other stuff. So it came out to it like I was probably making $20 an hour when I was
at what age?
14, 15, 16 years old.
It's great money.
So, but that's when I read 2 books at that time, Good to Great.
Great book.
And The Richest Man in Babylon.
Amazing book.
Amazing book. And I remember, and I get emotional thinking about this. I remember just being like, again, insecure. Like I didn't know if I was going to amount to anything. But I remember being so into what I was learning. And I just committed to myself, like I wanted to do something in the financial world. I wanted to help people. Like I read Jim Collins' book about great companies and what it would look like to be a level 5 leader, and just like get the right people on the bus and you'll go to amazing places. And so I was like inspired by that. And then The Richest Man in Babylon is just these like principles. 1/10 of what you make is yours to keep. And like it's not about a product, but it's just about like how anybody, going back to the Babylonian days, could become wealthy. I was also into Dave Ramsey and those other people that just like made personal finance like a norm. Like I just had so much respect for that. And so that's where my mom and her friend was like, Caleb, like you probably should get some experience if you're like, I was into business. I was a junior in high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something in the business space. And they got me a meeting with a guy who's on the board of Community First Bank. And that was the turning point for me, is when I sat down with him and I just explained what I was hoping to accomplish, which at the time was thinking so small of like, I'm hoping to get into business school and get a business degree. And he just said, man, you need experience. And he, with one phone call, got me a job at Community First Bank. And 17-year-old Caleb, who looked like he was 12, got a job as a teller at Community First Bank. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure like probably every one of your guests would probably put that in the top 1 or 2 or 3 books from a standpoint of like impact.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, I am not going to work for money. I'm going to use this opportunity at the bank to learn everything that I can. And so I was a HR nightmare because I was making $8 an hour as a teller. I was only allowed to work so many hours, so I worked those hours, and then I would work for free. I would go into our marketing meeting. I would work with our loan officers. I would try to do everything I could to work with our investment officer. I would go to networking events. I didn't even have a card, but I wrote my name on the back of other people's cards and started with my own personal email, which probably broke so many rules. But I just I had this desire to I want to learn. It was so clear to me that money follows value, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second. But it was if I can be more valuable, I couldn't articulate this at the time, but you are your greatest asset. The
100%.
number one investment you can make is in yourself. Majority of people want the new shiny investment object, or they want to know where they should invest their money. And I look at their life and say, bro, you're not creating a fraction of the value you can. So instead of going and diversifying or investing in some magical shiny object, what if you just became more valuable? Every part of your life would get better. And so, and again, I couldn't articulate that at the time, but I knew deep down, I'm man, Caleb, I'm given such a crazy opportunity. And I was, because I was known in Wisconsin, I was offered jobs with double the money and all this stuff. And my mom I love my mom, but she's like, Caleb, maybe you should go work for State Farm. They offered you $15 an hour, all this stuff. And I was like, I don't think you get it. I'm given such an amazing opportunity and I'm given freedom. Well, I'll fast forward because I could talk all day long about some of the lessons that I've learned. But when I was 18, I got to work as our investment assistant. I thought I arrived. I got my first Caleb Guilliams investment assistant. It was I got a little cubby that not behind the teller line, and I was just this was amazing. I got to sit in on meetings. Our investment advisor would do incredible job working with people, and I just got to it was amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I also got my insurance license, and so I was starting to learn about term insurance, and we were doing mortgage protection, and I was just learning crazy. And then at 19, I was living at home, went to the University of Stevens Point for finance, and was very involved with that, and then also very involved in business, living at home. So my life is filled, right? And I remember the day that the person that was running the investment department took another job. And Community First Bank, which has 3 branches, not a huge bank, but is well established in Stevens Point. I remember the day where our CEO, who's a second father to me, came in and said, "Hey, Caleb, it was super cliche, but it's cliche for a reason." He said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I believe you're the right person to step in to this job interimly and help our clients who've entrusted their money with Community First Bank, be that person." And so I literally, at 19 years old, took over a corner office of Community First Bank, the second largest office in the bank, and had a bank phone and had over 300 clients that I would call. And if you can imagine the 10 minutes of horror that people experienced walking in, realizing that they were working with someone that literally looked like they were 12 and they had grandchildren older than me, and quite frankly, I had zero experience. And I learned, you want to talk about learning how to communicate, and I learned so much. And I learned a couple things that I'll share with you. Number one, I learned that the more I talked, the less my credibility went down.
Yes.
Intuitively, a lot of people would look at my situation and say, Caleb, you didn't really have a direct mentor. And I'm that's the biggest blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because I'm charismatic enough where if I had a direct mentor locally that taught me typical financial advice, I'd be a really above average financial advisor.
You'd be making $100,000 a year.
But not even that. I would be pushing and pedaling, thinking I'm doing the right thing, and I wouldn't know what I didn't know. But since I didn't have a direct mentor, and I was committed, this mission statement hangs on my wall to this day. It's to help people see and reach their highest potential. The reason I do what I do, the reason I get fired up, the reason I wake up every day and excited about what we get to do, the reason I'm on this podcast is I believe that people have so much God-given potential. I believe people are born with insane potential, and I believe majority of people are living to that, even a fraction of that. And so it's man, I'm getting fired up here because it's a shame. It's a shame if people are living less than they're capable of. And so the idea is I looked at money, and I'm not going to say that money's the number one. I think it's probably in the top 5. But I think it's one of the top reasons people are not living to their highest potential. It's the misunderstanding understanding of like how money can be used and how to even think about it and articulate it, and almost looking at it as like you're afraid of it versus a tool.
Yes.
And so I just committed, like, I'm going to learn how to best use this money, and I'm going to help the clients that, you know, are freaking out because they have to talk to me, but I'm going to help them. So I committed to just learning and being humble in that. I also committed to asking people why they did what they did. Simon Sinek, huge fan, you know, read his book, watched his TED Talk.
Why before what?
Yep. Start with why the golden circle. People don't care what you do or how you do it until they know why you do what you do. And I thought, all the clients that come to us, like, why are they doing this thing called investing? Why are they doing what they're doing? And I started asking people that. Number one, just to defer to the next meeting because I didn't know what I was talking about. and I would work with people that were fully licensed to do certain things. So I was just kind of like the middle person of like just gathering information and then would go back. But then I realized, like, what a powerful question. Mm-hmm. And I would have people in tears. Like, it would be like, I wasn't a therapist or anything, but we would be a 19-year-old kid who was having conversations with people nearing retirement, and for the first time ever, they were asked a question and they went deeper. And in the notes, I wrote down like their why. And then again, I couldn't necessarily articulate it at the time, but I was like, doesn't it make sense that we should reverse engineer what they're doing with their time and money around what they truly want?
Their why. Why first?
And so now we've articulated this as intentional living. And like when people ask me what is wealth, and this is a good question just for the audience, like, how do you define wealth? Because I would argue that if you can't define wealth, but you're trying to be wealthy, there's friction there.
Right.
And majority of people, like, intuitively, they'll say fluffy things. But like Warren Buffett is worth a lot of money, over $100 million, $100 billion. Sometimes I don't think we can even comprehend how much money that is.
It's a lot of money.
He's 93 years old. You and I wouldn't trade places with him.
Not in a heartbeat.
You didn't even have to think about that.
Right.
Majority of people listening or watching would never trade places with one of the quote-unquote world's wealthiest men.
Guys, did I tell you this is going to be good or what? Like, that was maybe 5-7 minutes. Go back and rewind that. Listen to it again. So many freaking life lessons, nuggets were given. A few that I just want to touch on that I really, that struck a chord with me is, you said with the book, seems like a fourth grader wrote it, so I can't believe my name's on it. I'm a firm believer that the closer we get to truth, the simpler the lesson. You know what I mean?
It's good.
So this is a very simple book to read. It's 110 pages, big font, no
color.
Color. There's some graphs. Like, it's not a difficult book to read, yet it's so on point with the truths of money. Yeah. And it's so simple, right? I think a lot of times people try to overcomplicate things to sound smart, and that's most financial advisors. I've got clients all the time that will tell me, I talk to my financial advisor and they're spitting out all these things, confusing me. I have no idea what they're talking about. It seems like they're just trying to sell me. I'm doing business with you because you're just teaching me how a concept works. There's no selling involved. It's easy. Keep it simple, right? You said something else about your mom.
Yep.
She's very wise, it sounds like. She's still with us?
Yep.
Perfect. So your mom said you can't control your height. You can't control that you look like you're 12 years old. You can't control these things. Don't focus on them.
Yep.
Focus on what you can control.
Yep.
Which was 99% of everything else. But you were focused on this 1% of things, neglecting everything that you can control to get better as a human. Right? And what happened once you started focusing not on these things, but on the things you can control? What happened with your life? It ascended. Right? You get to the bank. You don't have a mentor per se, a mentor that would have been a financial advisor, and all they do is spit out products.
Right.
They sell products. Most of the products that they don't themselves have. Most financial advisors, if you guys are watching this is true through and through. You can look this up. The average financial advisor makes $80,000 a year and doesn't have assets. So So they're trying to teach you how to become wealthy,
Yep.
and they're not actually wealthy themselves.
It's majority of people are selling something. Majority of people are selling something, and you just have to get really, really clear about their intentions, why they're doing what they're doing. And majority of financial advisors are not wealthy and just trying to give back. Majority of them are doing it as a job, and good for them.
They're trying to make a commission.
And I actually think there's a lot of financial advisors that are trying to do the right thing. They just have not, like, they haven't learned what you and I know to be true about money, and they're a part of a system that I think is evil.
Yeah.
I think we could look at a big system in general and be like, man, there's a lot of there's some people pulling some strings, and majority of people don't even know, but they're helping with promoting an industry that, quite frankly, is not aligned with my values, and I don't think is aligned with a lot of people's values if they actually think about where their money's going.
If they knew what was actually happening.
Yeah.
There's a quote by Will Rogers. It says, "The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. It's what people think they know that just ain't so."
It's good.
So it's like, it's so true, because people think that a 401k is the best place to put money, an IRA. They think that it makes sense to put money in the bank, right?
Yep.
It's just not true, but they think that's the truth. That's the biggest lie, is that it's not what they think it is, right? So I love your book because, one, again, it got me thinking more about infinite banking before I even had a policy.
Yep.
I never even had the notion of becoming an agent. I read the book. I read Becoming Your Own Banker. I read What Would the Rockefellers Do by Garrett Gunderson. Awesome dude.
Yep.
Looks like Jesus. So I read his book, and then I got policies and I started using them and saw the power of them. So I just started telling everybody.
Yep.
As I start telling everybody, I'm explaining it because I know it now as a practitioner, and everyone's like, well, I want one.
Yep.
So wouldn't it make sense for me then to be the one to set it up?
Yep.
So I got licensed. One thing I love about your book, and we're not going to give away too much because I want you guys to go get this book. This is an amazing book. Again, super easy read. I reread it to get ready for the interview here. It took me 3 days, and I'm pretty busy.
Yeah.
So to get it done in 3 days, like, you could probably sit down and read it in a day.
Yep. An
Right?
hour. I think you could get the gist of it in an hour.
And I kind of have the same problem as you. I am not a good reader.
Yep.
If I don't like take an Adderall or something so I can focus, I'll read a paragraph and just be off in la la land. And then I'm like, what did I just read? I have to go back and read again. So it takes me longer to read. So 3 days for me being busy, I'm telling you guys, can read this in a sitting.
Yep.
One thing I love about this book is at the very beginning, guys, there is the beginning part, introduction. It's all about the why,
Yep.
which is what you talked about.
Yep.
Simon Sinek, why before what?
Yep.
Right? What is your why? Once you know your why, you can reverse engineer of how to get to that why. Here's your why. What are you doing today? Is it getting you to that why? If it's not, it's an easy decision. Stop doing it.
Yep.
Right? So let's talk about one part in the book that I think is actually the next chapter, the first chapter.
Yep.
And it is wealth transfers.
Yep.
What is a wealth transfer?
Well, so to take a step back, I'll just put a bow on the story. Is I'm learning all this, and this opens up the desire to actually learn about money. And then, so I start learning about how money works, not from a product standpoint, but just like how to think about money. And I start learning about efficiency, which is probably my favorite way of helping people, is just understanding the definition of efficiency, which is removing any friction to get to where you want to go. So going back to what you're saying, get really crystal clear about what you truly want, get really clear about what that is, and then highlight anything that's getting in the way to get there, and how many of us have so much financial friction in our way to get there. So I'm learning about efficiency. I'm learning about life insurance. I'm learning about this thing called opportunity cost, which the idea of opportunity cost is this. There's always other things that you could be doing with your time, money, relationships. Like, there's almost infinite things, like options that you have. If you choose to watch us right now, you're unable to do other things. There's an indirect cost to that. If I pay money for this coffee, that money's unable to do other things. And so the concept of a wealth transfer is when you look at someone's financial model, a wealth transfer is any time you lose money, whether you know it or unknowingly. So you pay the government that's money transferred out of your control. You pay for coffee, that's money transferred out of your control. There's so many wealth transfers that are transferring away from you. And so it's interesting to me because number one, a lot of people aren't even aware of that. They don't know like where all the areas that they're getting wealth transfers in their life, but then they don't know the true actual lifetime value of being inefficient. So I'm obsessed with efficiency because I believe every single person should want efficiency. Now, I'm not telling you what you should believe in or what your goals should be or what your why should be. Like you might have totally different objectives than I do, but you should want to be as efficient with your resources and with your time to be able to live that out, which goes back to intentional living.
Right.
And so these are some of the things that I was learning at the bank, and ultimately I left the bank when I was 21 to start a company, and there's a lot of reasons, but I was like, this internet thing's not a fad. I believe people are going to do business on the internet.
This is 7 years ago?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's about 6 years ago. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And it's just it's compounded from there. And I've just been unbelievably blown away by the people that this message has resonated with. Because another thing that we're talking about is you being your greatest asset. Mm-hmm. And I just like anybody that tells you, anyone that's helping you with your life and isn't respecting how you show up and isn't, if you don't believe that you are your greatest asset and you're diversifying, like I think so many people are diversifying way too early.
Yes.
It's like they're diversifying, but it's like, man, like.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Dude, 100%.
And it's just like, but it's again, like a lot of times we don't have a framework of how to think about money. And so we're trying our best. We're making money. We're told to invest. We're told to do. And so we're putting money. We're doing things, and we're not being intentional with our time. We're not being intentional with our relationships. We're not being intentional with money as a tool. We're not being intentional with even our skill sets. Like how many people are going to school just to get a degree, but they don't actually understand, like talk about opportunity cost. You're going for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years. You're paying money. What is going to be the result of this decision? And just getting intentional with everything across the board. So yeah, I mean, we can jam all day long about the and asset. I want you to know as I take a step back, I'm pro people living intentionally. I'm pro people owning their life. Going back to what is wealth? Wealth is intentional living. Wealth is your time. Wealth is your health. Wealth is your talents. Wealth is the relationships that you have. Wealth is how you use your talents. It's like we have to understand that wealth is so much more than just money in a bank account. And until we can get crystal clear on that, I personally believe we shouldn't be giving any investment advice or any advice in general, because we don't know if that advice, it could be the best quote unquote investment advice, but it could be taking someone away from really living the life that they want to live. And so, man, I just like, that's why we're doing what we're doing. And going back to life insurance, I believe when life insurance is set up and used properly, it is the greatest asset that enhances you as an individual. Protects your ability to earn value. Protects whether you're going to create value or not. It's literally ensuring that you're going to have that, and then understanding the concept of the and asset and a place to store and use capital. And it's like so many things that we can get into. But when I learned this, I was like, never once did I was like, this is an amazing investment. When I learned about overfunded life insurance, and now I call it the and asset, I was like, this is the thing that enhances. This is the enhancer to helping people show up powerfully in their life. And I was like, if people understood this, it would help them be more efficient. And remember, I believe everyone wants to be more efficient.
Yep.
So if we have something that can help people show up more powerfully and be more efficient and enhance their life and protect their family and the things that they care about, if you have a product that can do that, that's where I just get super excited and like fired up, and has nothing to do with the investment. And that's what's beautiful about this is I think the biggest misunderstanding of whether you call it infinite banking or the and asset or life insurance in general is we promote it as an investment. And I think it's number one.
It's not an investment.
It's not an investment. It should never be sold as an investment. I think there's a lot of people that are just overhyping things in general. And I just think it's like, man, if you actually understand the components of this, and if clients actually understood this, they would want a portion of their assets. They would want a portion of their portfolio to be in life insurance. And I would see that as like the greatest, safest, foundational place for your money. And so lots to unpack there, but like that was the story and how I learned life insurance, because you and I both know like you're not winning any like popularity awards by being like, oh yeah, my book's on life insurance, and like a big portion of our business is helping people design life insurance policies. Like I'm not doing that to be cool.
Right.
I'm literally doing that because I understand things that majority of people don't.
Guys, if you are listening to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and you're like at the gym or something, I guarantee you the treadmill just went up a few notches. Like, I want to run through that wall right now. Dude, I love this guy. Absolutely love you, man. Which most people don't know this about me, but I grew up from my mother, mama's boy, youngest of three. She would tell me she loved me all the time. Love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. One of the things she did better than anything, always tell me she loved me. My dad, I maybe heard it once or twice my entire childhood. Even up until recently, never really heard it. So for me to tell another man I love him, inherently it's hard for me to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love you, dude.
Yeah.
I love you. Funny story, guys. Funny story. So this was, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I read his book. I got into infinite banking. I started teaching people the concept, using it as a practitioner, not even selling the concept. Got licensed, saw it as just a way to bring in another revenue stream because people are learning from me. Why don't I be the one to set it up?
Yeah.
And I started crushing it. My first year, I set up like 700 policies.
It's awesome. And
I'm in our pool, me and my wife. We just got our new pool done. This was 2 summers ago. We're sitting there, and I get a little voice message from Caleb Guilliams. Didn't know it was him. I just saw a number, and I listened. He's like, "Hey, man, this is Caleb Guilliams. I got your number from Chris Noggle. Love what you're doing with like short form media and doing everything with the concept. Would love to have you at my event to speak." And I literally was like, am I in an ultimate universe right now? This dude that I read his book is reaching out to me to speak on stage. And then at the end of the clip, you're like, "All right, man, I love you." And then you're like, that probably sounds weird because you don't know me, but like, I just love people. But dude, your heart to serve and your heart to like help others is incredible, bro. It's incredible. So for me, someone where it's difficult for me to say I love you as you're a man, I'm a man. It's just hard for me to say that because of my upbringing.
Yeah.
I love you, dude.
Thanks.
You're incredible. So everyone listening to this, I know they're getting a ton of value, and I feel like we could go for like 4 or 5 hours. We can't, unfortunately.
Yes, and I have one other thing to just share because I've like rarely ever shared this, and I think it's gonna add a lot to what you just said. One of the people that has inspired me a ton is Andy Stanley. Now, I don't follow a lot of what he does as a pastor, but he spoke at a leadership conference, and he said that the value of your life is always measured. And like I'm like sitting up in my chair being like, okay, I'm listening, because he's like the value of your life. And one of the greatest questions I want answered is like, how can I be as valuable as possible to other people? The value of your life is always measured by how much of it was given away. And so I want you to know
that again.
The value of your life is always measured by how much of it was given away. In other words, if you want to be valuable, you have to learn how to give of yourself to others. And it's a work in progress, but I'm constantly like, this love doesn't come from a something of like, it's not necessarily a feeling. It's more of like, man, I love people. And like part of that is like giving of our time and our energy. And it's like, I don't know, there's so many people that are listening to this, and I have no idea what state you're in and where you're at, but I just want you to know, like, you have a lot to give. The value of your life is insane, and like, don't look back, do not regret the time that you've been given, because the fact that we're born, that we're living is like, the odds are impossible.
Right. Just that.
Yeah, so it's just like, there's just a lot to give. There's a lot to be thankful for. And like, I was grateful because, dude, you're crushing it. You understand TikTok. Like, we're in a space that people don't even know how to turn on a computer half the time. You're crushing it. And it's like the fact that we could be able to collaborate, the fact that you got to speak at an event that I got to bring in for advisors. Like, we literally host an event for competitors to help them up-level their game. Why? Because I just believe in what we're doing.
It's an abundance mindset.
I just believe in what we're doing, and I think we have a moral obligation to do this right, because there's a lot of people not.
Guys, I've gotten goosebumps like 4 times already. This is insane. Like, geez, so much to unpack there.
Yep.
So much to unpack. One thing that really just resonates is value. We all have so much value to give. And you said this earlier, and I wanted to touch on it, but like, I think my job as the podcast host is not to just cut you off whenever I have like a thought that I want to interject. I want you to keep going, but then I try to like mentally remember it, but then I don't want to be writing it down because then I'll miss everything else you're saying. So now it just came back to me is the fact that you said everything that we do, it has a value, right? We are valuable. Every person was put here by God to do something great. I believe that through and through. Everyone watching this, everyone listening to this, you were born to do something great with your life. It's your job to figure out what it is. And once you figure out what it is, lean into that like crazy, right?
Totally.
So I feel like...
And if you don't know what it is, start serving people and you'll start learning what... Because I believe that your greatest purpose is in the area that you can serve people the most at. So just
with the least effort.
Yes, but it's like, think about this. Like, you're in your zone. You're helping so many people. You're loving it. You're making great money. Like, your life is great right now. Why? I could look at, you're creating so much value. And it's like, where I've been most happy in my life and most fulfilled is when I'm like, man, my work matters and I'm serving other people. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be on the mission field making no money to do this. Like, I'm a huge fan of capitalism. I'm a huge fan of business. And I believe business in general is the like selling a service or a product that people value. That's why they're paying you.
Right. And when I said as easy as possible, I don't want that construed the wrong way. I don't want people to take the easy road to anything.
Right.
What I meant by that is, for me, being on camera with a phone, just selfie style, it's easy for me. It's not hard. Like, it comes naturally. And I put that content out there, people reciprocate it, and then they go into a funnel, they learn different things I do, and then I can monetize it.
Yep.
That's easy for me.
Yep.
If I could make a ton of money becoming a world-class violinist, I could. The biggest proof that anything is possible is the fact someone else has done it.
Yeah, that's good.
So if I wanted to go be a world-class violinist, I could do it. I'd have to spend all my time, all my energy perfecting that. But that's not easy for me. I don't enjoy it. Yep. I could do it.
Yep. It's
but
good.
I would be going against the grain, against my why, against my purpose, right?
I totally
But
agree.
I could do it.
Yep.
Right? I'm telling you guys right now, God, this is so good. This is so good. You can do anything you want to do. If it's been done, you can do it to an extent. If someone is 6 feet tall, they have 2 legs, 2 arms, and someone else that's 6 feet tall with 2 legs and 2 arms can dunk a basketball, you being 6 foot with 2 legs and 2 arms, you can dunk a basketball. You just got to work on different things to make your jumping ability higher, right?
Yep.
If you've got no legs, you can't do it, right?
Right.
To an extent, you can do anything you want if someone else has already done it. Figure out what you are drawn towards, what your passion is, lean into it, get amazing at it, and then share that value with other people. The more you share that value, the more valuable you become.
Yeah.
Money and wealth follows value.
Totally.
Period.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking about it because I believe like life insurance is an amazing thing once you have money. And there's a lot of people that are maybe listening to this or watching this, and the solution is not the end asset. The solution is actually not infinite banking. The solution is you being more valuable, making more money, and then learning about these things. And it's like, that's the thing that I think it's like, this is my criticism to Dave Ramsey. A lot of his financial advice is clumped together, debt being an example of one. He's like, debt is bad. And I'm like, okay, actually, let's separate debt and what you're buying in 2 separate categories. I do agree. Majority of people that he's watching him are using debt, and it's enabling them to be worse off. Like, I 100% agree. I think the best thing that they can do is pay off that debt, be credit card free, all that stuff. But I just don't like the ignorant statement as debt being bad.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you have to reverse engineer and say there's more than just debt. Debt didn't make you purchase a house that you can't afford. Debt didn't make you buy a car. Debt didn't make you go on this vacation. Debt enabled you to do something, but at the end of the day, it's a reflection of your heart. Debt can also be an amazing tool when set up and used properly. I'm not giving advice. I'm just saying, like, it's not debt's fault. Debt could reduce your risk, increase your cash flow, increase your net worth, and it could also do the exact opposite. Debt's not the issue. You're the issue. Your decisions are the issue. So it's like,
most people don't want to hear that.
Right,
though.
right. And majority of people don't want to do the hard work of thinking, of being like, okay, why they want to blame the market, the president, the debt. Like, they want to blame other people, and a lot of times they're just a symptom of the real issue. And so, like, debt is a perfect example of, like, U.S. dollar. If you pull out the U.S. dollar, it says Federal Reserve note. The U.S. dollar is a form of debt. When we went off the gold standard, when you pay cash, you're using a form of debt. I'm here to tell you that debt's neither good or bad. Trigger warning.
How you use it.
Debt's neither good or bad, but if you reverse engineer from an efficiency standpoint and you understand efficiency not only cares about cash flow, net worth, your risk tolerance, you can make decisions, and some people should be paying with cash. Some people should be using their life insurance policy. Some people should be going to a credit union. I'm not contradicting myself by saying those three things. It's everyone's in a different situation, and you have to look at the whole picture. I think it's easier for so many people to just say be debt free.
Yeah.
But that's an example of, like, okay, how deep do we want to go? There's a lot of people that literally need to reverse engineer how I can be as valuable as possible, how I can serve people well, how can I increase my talents, how can I up-level my friendships, how can I actually be healthier to show up more powerfully. That's the thing that you need to focus on. And then you just need to remember, like, myself or Devin or other people, it's like, once you start making money, then learn how to do, like, learn where to keep it, be more efficient. But I just think we have a value crisis in this country.
Yes.
And the victim mentality is just off the charts. And I just think people have never been told this is what you should do.
More goosebumps.
Yeah. Like, these are not things I talk about all the time, but it's like, I see it over and over and over again. It's like, even people in our space, they want to make it this is what you should do. This will solve your marriage. It's like, no, marriage is hard.
You will solve your marriage.
Right.
Dude, such a freaking good point, guys. Oh my gosh. If the share button is not going off like crazy right now, I don't know what's going on, because
we haven't even talked about the main topic.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about infinite banking, basically the and asset, but, like, this is incredible, dude. Not a lot of people know this about me. And what I've learned over my lifetime, just over the last, like, 3 or 4 years, the more vulnerable I get, the more it puts other people's barriers down and relationships become stronger.
Yep, totally.
You know what I mean? Because if I become vulnerable to you, now you're like, I can be vulnerable. Your guard goes down, right?
Totally.
And then we can connect. I think life is all about connections.
Yep.
The better your connections are with other humans, the better your life really is. At the end of the day, when I pass away, way down the road, I'm a firm believer with technology, AI, the level of income I have, it's not out of the question that I'm going to live to be 150. I'm going to outlive my 121 year endowment date on all my policies, right? They're going to pay me out the death benefit while I'm alive, and I'll just get more policies. But my point is, basically, the longer we live, right, the more time our money has to grow and compound, right? So let's say, for instance, I build relationships throughout my entire life, right? At my death, are they going to remember all of the money I made? Are they going to remember the collection of watches I have? Are they going to remember the Porsche 911 that I bought, the houses I bought? They won't think of any of that. They will think about how I made them feel.
Yep.
And how do you make someone feel something is with a connection. Get vulnerable. So all that to say, when I was 19 years old, actually 18 years old, I got shot at.
Wow.
I was running with the wrong crowd. I was not working on myself as an individual. I was trying to be someone else to fit in.
Yeah.
Me from a wholesome, authentic me is a loving person, heart on my sleeve, I was trying to be like a thug and fit in. And I'm wearing like jerseys and sideways hats and sagging my pants. And I got jumped outside of my car at a party. I went home to my mom's house to go ice my face. I drove home drunk, smart. I get out of the car, go into the house, go to the freezer. So I'm out of my car maybe 45 seconds. Pop, 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 pop. My car got shot up. A bullet went through the headrest. If I had been sitting in that car for a minute longer, in 2003, I would be gone. I'd be a statistic, right? All that happened to me, not because of any outside circumstances. It happened because of me. I was being someone different. I was portraying something I wasn't authentic to, right? So there's times in my life, and I'm sure you can speak on this as well, when you're not working on you, when you're being unauthentic, life starts going down. Bad things start happening. But the second you start being the most authentic version of yourself and working constantly on yourself, you ascend. And anyone can do that. And I wanted to share that story because you had mentioned that basically you always have to work on yourself to be more valuable. And the second you're more valuable, eventually you're so valuable that just being in proximity with other people, they get that value. And then the more that happens, money just starts following you. Opportunities just start following you. Relationships just start following you, right?
Yep. It's good, man. Thank you for sharing.
So now my guard's down. I'm vulnerable. Your turn. Let's go.
I mean, I'll put a bow on this whole thing. I think identity, if people actually understand, like, where does your identity come from? A lot of people's identity comes from other things, what their parents think, what their friends think. They're like putting on a show because like identity is the most sacred thing in our life. It's like, who are we? And a lot of people can't answer that question. We could talk about faith all day long. I believe that for me, my identity is so much greater than who Caleb thinks he is. So much greater than that. And so one of the things that I just reverse engineer everything is like, okay, why do certain people have different reactions? Why do people make different decisions? A lot of it is trying to explain or cope or justify their identity. And so if you don't have a strong identity, it's not rooted, you'll make a lot of dumb decisions, or you'll understand, like, why do I keep putting myself in this situations and all these things? And it's a lot of times it's like, you tell me where your identity comes from, and I'll tell you, like, I'll be able to reflect back your issues. And no one's perfect. I'm far from perfect, but I've realized just through this time, like, even why did I start Better Wealth? I started Better Wealth because I do this exercise. Even before Alex Ramosi started talking about this, about your 85-year-old self, like, I just thought of myself on my deathbed and just thought of, like, okay, Caleb, like, the reason if we zoom out, it gets really clear is, like, when you're going to die or you're close to death, like, nothing else matters. You think crystal clear. Whereas when you're in your 20s or your 30s, there's like, it's like, what are my kids going to think? What is my spouse going to think? What are my friends going to think? And that, like, we'll like compromise based on that. But, like, when you're on your deathbed, you don't give a crap. And so it's like, okay, I'm looking back on my life and it's like, am I going to regret taking risk? Because believe it or not, this tells you how cushy my life is. Like, leaving the bank was a really hard decision because I had it good. I loved the people that I got to serve. I didn't have to justify anything to anybody. Like, I was 19, 20, 21 years old in a corner office of a bank helping people. Like, I had it. And leaving, there was a lot of quote unquote risk. But as I look back, there's like, what was I risking? Like, the worst case scenario.
Weren't you still living at home?
I was living when this book was written, I was living at home.
So bills were very low.
Bills are very low. But the point that I'm making is like I had the thing that I was afraid of is what other people would view me as. The thing I was afraid of is writing a book on money and then failing financially. The thing that I was afraid of is like going out, having a business, helping people with money, but then not making it in the end. I was afraid of all those things, and I just had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, all right, am I okay to fail? Am I okay to, like, what's the worst case case scenario here. Am I willing to do that? And then if you zoom out to your older self on your deathbed to be like, what would this person tell me to do knowing what he knows? And it's like, we're majority of us are living to a fraction of our potential. Why? Because of fear of what other people think of us. And I just think if we understand perspective and we understand identity and we're able to actually go deep, as I appreciated you like sharing, things are able to get way crystal clear. And so that may or may not be relevant to people listening to this, but these were some of the things that I had to do at 21 years old. That's why people called me an old soul, because like what 21-year-old is thinking these things? I didn't have a super traumatic experiences growing up. I just was like, man, I don't want to live with regret. And that's like the thing I'm terrified of like looking back on my life and being like, you mailed it in. You were doing things for what? You were doing things for this reason. And
so, not to cut you off,
Yeah,
I
no.
apologize. But so much of what you're saying, I've heard, like, let's say, like Gary V. I've
Love
heard
Gary.
So you listen to a lot of Gary V.
yeah.
Did you listen to him back then?
yes,
So guys,
he indirectly inspired me to start Better Wealth.
guys, I cannot stress this enough, is what you feed your mind,
You become
because it's what you believe.
correct.
Whatever you believe, your life shows up as that belief, right? That is what it is. So the more you feed your mind things of wealth, abundance, I talked about this in the last episode, the reticular activating system. If I'm thinking about red car all the time, I'm going to see red cars.
Yep.
Those red cars, they were always there. I just wasn't thinking about them before.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? So what you said about regret, Gary Vee says this all the time, is if you go to like a nursing home and you ask older people, what's the biggest thing? They'll say regret. You can see the regret in their eyes. They want to start that business. They wanted to go after that girl. They wanted to go after that guy. They didn't. They can't do it now. Right? So what's bigger, the pain of regret or the pain of failure?
Yeah, that's good.
I would agree to say the pain of regret is bigger.
Yep.
Because the pain of failure, I have a tattoo that says pain is temporary. Because if you fail, 21-year-old Caleb, if he failed in his business, you're 21 years old.
Yep.
To my point before, modern technology, AI, your level of income, you're probably going to live well into your hundreds.
Let's say 30-year-old Caleb. You're 40-year-old. Like, that's what's crazy is like perspective.
Yeah, you can fail over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Prime example, good old KFC, the Colonel.
Yep, it's a great example.
Failed. Did not become a success until he was in his 60s. KFC.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like the biggest thing that I hope people take away from this, and we're going to get into infinite banking.
Yeah.
I promise you guys.
People are like so disappointed. They're like, they promised me.
Like, Mr. Burr, come on. We're going to get into infinite banking, but just, I want you guys to really re-listen to this episode, share this episode just from a sheer wisdom standpoint. I'm blown away, man, honestly, how much wisdom you have at such a young age. I'm blown away. You're 27 right now, right? When did you turn 27?
In February.
February what?
February 15th.
Okay, so I'm gonna save your birthday, because I have this thing where this is a lesson for you guys. Relationships, and we touched on this before, relationships are what life is all about.
Yep.
The stronger your relationships, the more beautiful your life is. I have this thing where when I know someone's birthday, it's in my calendar, and I send them a voice, or not a voice clip, a video message. I learned this from you, video messaging. Think about that. How often do you get us a video message from people? Not very often. On your birthday, dude, happy birthday, thinking about you, hope it's a great one. And what I've been trying to do, because I'm a very early riser, I get up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Wow.
Is I send it like when I'm just like barely awake. So then I'm like the first one to tell them happy birthday. And it's a freaking video message.
That's
that hits different.
Yeah.
And again, when I pass away, what are people going to remember?
Yep.
How I made them feel.
Yep.
How's that going to make you feel on February 15th next year, when you get a voice message from me at 3 a.m. and I'm wiping like, you know what I mean? The sleep out of my eyes.
Yep.
So.
Can I say one other thing before we transition?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to speak to the camera. You're probably listening to this and it's like, where do I even begin? And I'll tell you where to begin. The number one thing that you can do today that will shift how you show up and your perspective and get really crystal clear on intentional living is this. Take out your phone and shoot a video that is going to be portrayed at your funeral. Literally get your phone out and speak like you're speaking and addressing the people that are showing up at your funeral. Talk about the things that are most sacred to you. Acknowledge the people that you love the most. And like, what would you actually share in that moment? Regardless if it plays at your funeral or not, how epic would that be? Like the most viral video you ever do. It's like your last video. But what you share in that video is actually the things that you should be working towards. A lot of times, sometimes we are like, what's my why and all this stuff. And we get really selfish, which is fine. Like we should all do things that we truly enjoy. But like at the end of your day, if you had one video, if you had one last thing that you had to share with the people that you love the most, if you had one last thing to share, what's most sacred to you, what would that be? And I'm telling you, if you make that video, regardless if anyone sees that, you are going to start changing the way that you think, because subconsciously you're going to be like, okay, like it's kind of puts a chapter at the end of your life kind of deal. It's like Stephen Covey when he says like, write your obituary. That the concept of like, okay, I'm a big fan of videos, so it's like, why not just do a video? And my whole, like, we're trying to, like, I don't have anything formal, but I want to see people, thousands of people, make videos for their funeral, be the main speaker at their funeral. I actually own the domain main speaker at funeral or something like that. We'll get the details. You can go down below, but it's just like helping people like say, yeah, I'm going to be a main speaker at my funeral. And it's not to focus on death. It's mainly just to focus on like what really matters. And then how cool would that be to, number one, share that with the people that you love the most.
Wow.
But number two, even if you don't share that, you will live differently because of that video. So that's just last thing. It has nothing to do with life insurance, but it's just like I've been toying with like, what are the things that we can do? What are the inputs that we can do in our life to actually live differently? And I don't think there's any greater thing that someone could do in this moment than making a 2, 3, 4 minute video speaking to like they're the main speaker at their funeral. Like I think that is the one input that they could do that will have the greatest impact on their life besides like accepting Jesus Christ into their life. That would just like change their life and how it's done. And so I'm trying to get as many people to do that. And thanks to you and this podcast, it's maybe helping me better articulate that and getting on being the main speaker at your funeral.
Thank you so much for that. That's the first time on the Mr. Burr Show that the guest has spoke directly to the camera. I love it, dude. So, guys, so much wisdom from this man. I'm just blown away, man. I am blown away. Like, I am so blessed to have you as, I would consider you a close friend at this point. Like, I hope and pray that if you ever need something, that you know you could hit me up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you really need something, I'm there for you.
Yep.
And vice versa. Like, if I really need something, I know without a shadow of a doubt you'd be there for me. So, thank you. I love you. That being said, let's get into the good old main topic. What's this, like 45 minutes in?
Yeah.
Infinite banking.
Yep.
So I could talk for hours about infinite banking.
Yep.
In your words, what's the simplest way you can explain what infinite banking is?
Yep. The way that I explain infinite banking is your money, when you create value, you have money come into your personal economy, and your money has to flow somewhere. So your money can only really do two things. It can be consumed and gone forever, or saved for a future consumption date. Infinite banking concept, and what I talk about in the AND asset, this concept of life insurance, is a middle account that allows you to save your money and use it more efficiently throughout your life. So your greatest financial need is using money. Your greatest financial need is that concept. And so the idea of infinite banking is not changing what you spend your money on, not changing what you invest your money in. It's where does your money reside and how do you use it? And when set up and used properly, a whole life policy that's max funded is an amazing place to storehouse some of your dollars, that they're protected, they They protect you as an individual and your future ability to provide value to the world, but it allows your money to grow the rest of your life with many tax advantages and gives you the ability to use that money throughout your life to do whatever you want to do. And when you look over 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years, using a life insurance policy at the foundation versus like a bank account or other assets that you could put your money in creates multi uses of your dollar. And it's those that create the massive benefit. So the concept of infinite banking is essentially like looking at where money flows, being efficient with your money, and using whole life insurance at the foundation of it when set up and used properly. And I say set up and used properly because there's a lot of people that don't set it up and don't use it properly. But when set up and used properly, it's an amazing foundational asset that's not an investment, but an amazing place to store house and use your money throughout your life.
Yes, not an investment whatsoever.
Yeah.
I have so many people saying, oh, but the rate of return is only this. You're looking at it as an investment. Yeah. Investments, you want to get the highest rate of return.
Totally.
Investments, though, can what? Lose money.
Yep.
Whole life insurance policy with a mutually owned company can never lose money. It's guaranteed to grow. So it is not an investment. It's a storehouse for your capital. So for those watching this will be like a good illustration. So this money I have here, this is actually my haircut money.
Love it.
Because my barber, even though it's 2023, does not accept credit cards. He only takes cash. So I only have cash on me for haircuts.
Love it.
So let's say, guys, this money here, okay? This money is going to flow somewhere, right? Most people, it flows right to a bank. They get a direct deposit. They don't even touch the money. Government takes their taxes. They do a 401k, right? So let's say they're left with whatever else. It goes directly into their bank account. They don't touch it. It's sitting in the bank account. Now that it's in the bank account, it's subject to lawsuits, judgments. So if you get sued, someone can take that money, right? In a properly structured whole life insurance policy in most states, you can't touch it, right?
There's creditor protections in every state.
Yeah. So it's more safe sitting there than it is in a bank. If this money's sitting in the bank, it's earning on average 0.06%, less than 0.1%. That's an insult. And that is actually taxed. Yep. In a policy, guaranteed to grow with anywhere from 2% is the guarantee to 3.25%. Way more guaranteed tax-free, right? So it's growing more. It's protected against lawsuits and judgments. In a bank where most people flow their money,
yep,
that money it's in a place that's not really stable. Banks are insolvent all the time. Why? Because they don't have to keep all this money. They keep a fraction of it, lend the rest out. So if everyone tries to get their money, guess what? They don't have it.
Yep.
So they're insolvent. They have to sell off assets. If they sell those assets at a discount, that's when banks go out of business. In a life insurance policy, the money goes there. They can only lend what is in the general account. They don't go out of business. The companies we use, I think, the same companies, right? One America, Lafayette, Guardian, Penn, Mass. These companies have been around. Mass has been around for 169 years.
I don't know.
Something like that.
Long time.
Long time. Through the Great Depression, World War I, World War II, meltdown of 2008, swine flu, bird flu, COVID. Through all of those things that have the economy crash, these companies are profitable. So do you want to put your money into a bank that's not protected, grows very, very slowly, insolvent, have to get bailed out by the government because they're not profitable through many things? Or would you rather put them in a place where protected against lawsuits and judgments, grows guaranteed tax-free way more than anything else, doesn't fold? These companies are not insolvent. They're growing and profiting every year. When they profit, because it's a mutually owned company, they share those profits with you because you're a part owner of the business, right? And then here's the kicker. This is the and asset part. So you put all this money into infinite banking policy, overfunded whole life insurance policy with a mutually owned company. It's very important what it is. Once it's there, I can leverage against it. This money continues to do all those things I just said, but now I can leverage against it, borrow my future death benefit, Now I control.
And we should talk about future death benefit because I think that can be, borrow against your cash value.
Yeah. So your cash value, whatever's sitting there, say I got 100 grand in there, cash value. I can borrow against that. That's the collateral to get a loan from my future death benefit.
Yep.
So now I'm borrowing the insurance company's money. My money's sitting there getting all those benefits I just explained. So now I'm borrowing this money. I control this money for an interest rate.
Yep.
But if I can take this and go make more than what they're charging me, I've just done exactly what the bank does. I've made an arbitrage, a spread on money. If it costs me 5% to control this money, and I can take it, lend it to you, and you pay me 15, I'm paying 5 to make 15. So I made 10%. What's the rate of return on that? I know you know this, but most people don't.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So 5 to make 10 is a 200% cash on cash return.
And a lot of people are like, well, it should only be 5, but it's like, no, you're double, like your investment is in your control cost. And I thought you explained that well.
Yeah. So 5% is what I'm paying to control the money, and I go make 15. So net I make 10. I've turned 5 into 10.
Yep.
That's a huge return. At the same time, my money, the collateral, is still compounding and growing. So the longer you give it, the bigger it becomes, so the more you can borrow against it. And all you're doing is you're borrowing that future death benefit. So I love the concept. I am obsessed with it because I use it for everything.
Right.
All my real estate deals, my daughter's braces. I bought this watch using it. My 911 I bought an R8. I buy all my trips, everything.
Yep.
So talk about the death benefit portion.
Yep.
And the collateral. So like, let's say, I know the answer to this, but let's say I borrow against my death benefit and I just never pay it back.
Yep. So
what happens there?
Let me explain, because let me explain how I explain the strategy, and then we'll talk about that if you're cool with that.
Yep.
So like the concept of the and asset, when we talk about life insurance in general, it goes back to efficiency. Mm-hmm. Every single person that I know owns a smartphone. Mm-hmm. Why do they own the smartphone? It's because there's negatives to a smartphone, but it's very efficient. It was my plane ticket to get here. It was my alarm clock. I spoke with you. I can text you.
Flashlight, calculator.
All kinds of things. It gives us the ability to do multiple things. So is our cell phone an investment? Is it the it factor? No, but it's an amazing tool that allows me to do all kinds of things. I believe everyone wants efficiency, going back to my core belief. The reason I'm a huge fan of life insurance is I believe there's no greater safe asset that someone could have at the foundation of their life because of some of the things that you just said. It's safe, has some amazing tax advantages. It protects you and your family, which is incredible. It allows you to have control and liquidity and use and leverageability over your savings. And also, I believe life insurance as an asset, there's so much study out there that's saying life insurance as an asset gets really good in the future years, gives you options that you could do with other assets. Like it actually enhances future cash flow, which is what we should call retirement. Like we should call it future cash flow planning because that's what it is.
Right.
So when I start learning about life insurance, I'm like, this is amazing. Like literally, just like a phone, I'm able to put $1 in a place and it literally gives my dollar more than one job. Or if I put my money in a bank, or if I put my money in an investment, it's doing one or two things.
One
it's
job.
like I put my money here for a rate of return or for cash flow. I put my money here for safety and liquidity. But putting my money in life insurance, it like gives that multidimensional aspect. Not investment, but like if I understand all the benefits that I yield from putting my money in that, it's like it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And then the really cool thing, and this is why it's called the and asset, is the ability to, like if someone says I can get a better rate of return or opportunity cost, the opportunity cost of like what could I else be doing? If all life insurance was a place to like invest your money or park your money, I would not be into it. But the ability that you have the ability to use your money throughout your life for other initiatives that you care about, other initiatives that may help you be more valuable in your life or create more value for other people. That idea is like, I don't know of any other paper asset that gives me that many benefits today and in the future and allows me to have access to capital to do other things, but I still get all the benefits of life insurance. So we talk about compounding, which is awesome, but what is compounding? It's just growing future benefits. So it's not just your cash that's growing, it's all the benefits of life insurance that are going to be growing, your death benefit and all these other things. So anything that you want to comment on that, because then I want to talk about the death benefit comment. But it's like, I look at it less as like infinite banking and banking concept and more of like, I believe everyone wants to be most efficient. If you understand life insurance when set up and used properly is an amazing, efficient asset. By default, just like everyone has a car, everyone has a phone. I don't mean everybody, but like people use efficient areas in their life because we value efficiency. If we understood the value of life insurance, we wouldn't look at it as an investment. We would look at it as I'm more efficient because this thing's a part of my portfolio.
To get to my why.
To remove friction to get to where you want to go. Yes.
Right.
Living more intentionally. Whatever that is for you, I believe life insurance enhances your ability to show up not just now, but into the future.
Dude, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, I actually had one of my clients on. He invests in mobile home parks. He's already got, I think, 3 policies with me. He's crushing it with his policies, just using it with his mobile home investing. And I don't know where, at some point in the conversation, he's like, yeah, so when I see something and someone's being successful with it, I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to go to them, figure out what they're doing and do it. And I was like, yeah, so you reached out to the GOAT of infinite banking. So I coined myself the GOAT. Yeah. But like, I think I did that not to be cocky, but to be like, if you have to really always think you're the best at something or you'll never be, right? So I consider myself the GOAT of infinite banking, even if I'm really not.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? The more I think it, I'll eventually probably be that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I love what you said because we do the same thing. We talk about the same concept, but you view it completely different than I do. You view it as just more of an efficiency thing. I view it as literally just a banking concept. How can I control that concept of banking more? That's how I view it.
Yep.
So what can I learn from you? I can learn how to pull some of what you believe into it, which will help me to actually be the GOAT.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
So let's talk about this. Do you have a calculator with you or your phone?
Yes, I have my phone. Yeah.
Can you pull up a compound interest calculator? I use NerdWallet.
Yes.
So pull that up. And I want you guys to understand something, that this was something I really had to learn about money in order to excel. At 31 years old, I was bankrupt. I had $300 to my name. Literally $300. I couldn't afford the apartment I was living in. I was a single father at the time. My daughter was 9. We had a 1-bedroom apartment. I couldn't afford the rent. I had to break my lease. I was down to $300. I had to move in with a friend, sell my bed. I had to sell most of my belongings. I'm renting a little room from a friend. Me and my daughter are sleeping on a mattress on the ground just to be able to like barely get by. I started learning how money works. This $100, right? This is opportunity cost, guys. This $100, let's just say your book, it does not cost $100. How much does it cost?
I don't know, $20.
It's $20. And then if you have an Audible, is it on Audible?
Not yet. It will be.
Get it on Audible. So let's just say it costs $100.
Yep.
You have the book. I give you $100 for the book.
Yep.
Right? That $100 got me the book. That $100 is not mine anymore, right?
Yep.
That $100, I'm 38 years old, can never make me another penny for the rest of my life. It is gone forever, right? If I keep it, how much can I make with the $100 over my lifetime? This is opportunity cost, guys. So take $100.
Yep.
And then let's put it at just the guarantee with one of my favorite companies, One America, 3.25%. Okay, I'm 38. Let's put it at 50 years.
Okay.
So I would be 88 years old. What does $100 grow into?
$494.
At 3.25.
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Seems like it'd be more. Let's see, $100, future value. Okay, cool. So I guess it's just a smaller amount.
Right. I mean, we could do what Dave Ramsey does and put 12%. and it's 28,000. So
Yeah,
it's all relative.
So like this $100 though,
Yeah.
if I give it to you, it will not turn into $400 and something dollars.
Correct.
But if I have it in a policy, it's guaranteed to turn into that $400 or whatever dollars in 50 years. And guess what? I can still use it the entire time to go make more
Yep.
somewhere else.
Yep.
Right? That's opportunity cost for you guys. The second you spend your money, it's gone forever.
Yep.
You'll never make another penny off of it.
Yeah, and going back to efficiency, it's just I see opportunity cost or wealth transfers as just friction. So it's like we should want to remove as much friction to our financial lives as possible. So we're saying the same things. We're talking about, and that's what's really cool about this podcast is like we're able to go back and forth, and I think people's IQ will increase because they're hearing people talk about things. And what I don't like is people just stating things and they just state it and they just move on. Like I want to question things.
Yeah.
So like let's talk about the death benefit comment.
Yes.
Because there are people that have come to us and they're like, can I borrow again from my death benefit? And it's like, no, but you're not wrong when you say you're borrowing using your death benefit as collateral. So let me try to explain this. So any other financial institution that you get a loan from, you have to pay them. You have to pay them. You can't just have a guaranteed unstructured loan, which you do get if you're with a life insurance company.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, why do they require you to have to pay that back?
Real quick.
Yep.
Unstructured loan.
Yep.
What does that mean? Because some people might
Unstructured
not know.
loan means you have no structure in when you have to pay it.
No repayment terms.
No repayment terms while you're alive.
Perfect.
Okay. The reason you have that is they're a financial institution. Insurance companies are a financial institution. They're hedging your mortality, your death, and also hedging interest rates. Whereas majority of institutions that we work with don't have anything to do with your death. They're just interest rate. So they're playing this cash flow game, and they have to get they have to get structured payments. Otherwise, it would be like infinite risk, and they would be dumb. They would be dumb to do that. The reason life insurance companies allow you to take an unstructured loan and don't require you to have to pay it back at any time is they know that they will get that money eventually because you will die someday, and they're either going to get their money one of three ways. You're going to cancel the policy, and then they'll just take the difference between your cash value and your outstanding loan and then give you the difference. You're going to die, which they have a permanent liability on their balance sheet called the death benefit, which is an asset to you, a liability to them. They pay you the death benefit subtracted the outstanding loan that you have, or you're going to pay them back. The insurance company is positioned because their long-term way of thinking, they're going to win regardless. They actually have zero risk because they already have a liability on their balance sheet. There's no other institutions that can do that. So when people say you can borrow against your death benefit, I think a better way to say that is you can borrow against your cash value, and because you get the best terms of all time, unstructured, is because of the death benefit. If you didn't have the death benefit, you wouldn't be able to have these structures. So it's you're right. Your part of it is your collateral as a death benefit, but it's an indirect collateral that's allowing you to not have to pay it back because you will die someday. And that death benefit gives the insurance company the permission slip to say,
so if I
take a loan against your policy and you don't have to pay it back while you're alive because we will be made whole at one point.
I might have worded it wrong then, because exactly what you said is what I meant if I didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
So what it is, guys, is think of a house. When you buy a house, the house is the collateral to get a loan from the bank, right?
Yep.
If you don't make your payments on the house, what can the bank do? They can take the collateral, right? Your policy, you're putting money in, that money is the collateral, the house.
Yep.
Houses go up in value. They build equity, right? You put your money into a policy, your cash builds equity. It goes up in value, guaranteed. You can borrow against it. Just like a house, you can get an equity line of credit from the bank, right? If you don't pay the bank, they take the house, they take the collateral.
Yep.
In a policy, your cash value is the collateral. So you can borrow against that. You're not borrowing against your death benefit. You're getting an advance of your death benefit. They're basically lending it to you while you're alive, using that money as collateral. So if you don't repay it, they know without a doubt you're gonna die. They just don't know when. They hope, and you hope. This is why I love life insurance.
The incentives are aligned.
You're in partnership literally, because it's a mutually owned
Yeah.
company, you own the company.
Yeah.
You own a fraction of the company. You want to live for as long as possible.
Yeah.
They want you to live as long as possible. The longer you live, the longer they can manage that money and
Yeah.
grow it.
Yeah.
Right? So like if I put money into a policy at 38 years old, let's say 100 grand, and I'm giving just arbitrary numbers, guys, so don't take this with a grain of salt. If I put 100 grand into a policy and it gets me a $10 million death benefit, if I use all 100 grand as a policy loan and I don't repay it and I die the next day, they have to pay out $10 million minus the 100
Yep.
grand.
Yep.
That's a lot of risk.
Yep.
They do not want you to die soon.
Yep.
But if I've been putting in all this money over my lifetime and they've been able to make all these
Yeah.
profits, their risk shrinks the longer you live,
Yep.
right? So yes, they are dealing with an inevitability,
Yep.
not an if. They know you're going to die.
Yep.
So if you don't pay back your policy loan, they just don't pay that amount to your family. Death benefit minus what you didn't pay back.
It's a beautiful thing, and that's one of when we go back to efficiency and multidimensional use and benefits of a life insurance policy. It's more than just rate of return using your money, which are two amazing things. And that's actually the book, The End Asset. I wrote that like 5.5 years ago, and I mainly focused on compound interest and use of money, control costs, control and compounding. Those are like the two C's. And now, like 5 years later, 6 years later, I'm like, okay, that's right. I'm not anti what I wrote in that book, but there's so many more.
It's evolved.
It's like there's 20 benefits rather than just two. And the more that I just interact with people, I'm like, wow, like that's a really powerful thing to be able to say, because there's, it's, if we just understand the benefits, that translates into value. And that's why I believe if it's set up and used properly and if it's best understood, families should want that as a part of their life, because everything in their life will get better if they understand the kind of asset that they have.
Yes. So let's talk about, I get this all the time, and I'm sure you get it as well. If this is so great, if infinite banking is so amazing, if the and asset, privatized banking, over whatever people call it,
Yep.
if it's so amazing, why don't more people know about it? How do you answer that?
Yeah, I'm curious how you answer that. But
I'll tell you after.
Yeah, one of the things that I'll just point out is banks, over 3,800 banks in the United States of America today own what's called bank-owned life insurance.
Bowley, research that.
Yep. There's billions of dollars in some of these top banks where so like banks own this, and they can take some of their tier one assets, and so they do that. There's benefits to their employees, there's benefits to the bank, there's benefits to their ability to loan against it. There's a lot of reasons they do that. A lot of companies use what's called COLI, corporate-owned life insurance. Yep. And a lot of the wealthy presidents on both sides of the aisle, people a lot of people do use this. Now, not everyone talks about it as infinite banking like you talk about it kind of deal. A lot of them just use life insurance because it's an amazing asset for estate planning and other things, and there's also other tax advantages to it. But people do talk about it. Now, here's the thing. There's nothing sexy about life insurance. So it's like, why would you talk about it? Like, I understand we talk about it more because we're in a business of helping people set this stuff up. But there's a lot of people that are clients of ours. There's a lot of people that I know that own massive amounts of life insurance, and they don't want to be known. Like, why would they want to be known? Why would they be sharing this thing? And the last thing that I'll say is, it's not an asset that makes you rich. It's really an asset that helps you be more efficient with the money that you already have. And it's not the thing that's multiplying crazy money, and it's not the thing that creates crazy money. It's kind of the thing, like how many people are talking about estate plans and other things that they're doing with their money. It's just not fun and exciting. So I think there's a lot of ways you can answer that question. But there are a lot of wealthy people that are doing it, hence why I got drawn to it to begin with. I think it's the most misunderstood asset of all time, that people peddling it, the people own it, and the people that, that are against it. I think if there's one thing that I can agree with is life insurance agents, people that buy life insurance, and people that are anti-life insurance, they all misunderstand it in some capacity. I mean, we could talk about our industry all day long. There's so many people that I look at videos that they do on TikTok and other things, and I just want to face plant. I'm embarrassed. I'm angry because I feel like people are preying on people saying the sexy thing to say, but at the end of the day, like their clients are going to be worse off for having this. So I'm saying a lot of words right now, but the whole concept is I think it is a very misunderstood asset. And as a result, if people don't understand things, they usually criticize it or they usually downplay it because there's no upside into misunderstanding something.
I love it, man, because you made so many points that are so valid.
Yeah.
I never explain it like that, which some of the things you said, I would actually start explaining. I would throw those in now. So here's how I usually explain
I love it.
it.
This is good.
How I usually explain it is, well, a couple things. There's not a lot of incentive. These kind of policies, the ones we're talking about, overfunded life insurance policies with mutually owned companies, they're paid the least amount of commission to the agent.
Right.
Because basically, here's how it's structured, guys. You have premiums. Of the premium, a regular whole life built for the death benefit is base premium.
Yep.
So that it's 100% base.
Yep.
That gets a big old death benefit. All that base is where all the commissions are.
Yep.
Right? That's what agents want to sell. They want to sell what gets them the most commission, right? What we're talking about is lowering the base, lowering the initial death benefit. And I say initial because the way they're built, the death benefit rises. We'll get into that. But we lower the base premium, lower commission, lower death benefit, and then we overfund it to an extent. You can only do it so much before it becomes taxable. It's called the MEC, Modified Endowment Contract. That's called paid up additions. You put those in. Those are basically prepaying for more insurance without a bunch of cost.
Yep.
So it's instant cash value, right?
Yep.
Not a bunch of commissions. We get paid like 0.02% commission on them. So one, the agent has to know how to do it. How much PUAs to put in. When the PUAs become a MEC, they need to know when to put a 7-year term rider, when to put a 10-year term rider. They need to know how to structure it.
Yep.
Most don't know how. Because think about this. If you are a insurance company, are you going to teach your agents how to make less money?
No. Because most people can't make a living as it is in this space.
Yeah. So I'm going to teach you how to make less. So what would you probably do if I did that? You'd go somewhere where you could make more.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of incentive to teach agents how to do it. That's the first thing. If the agent knows how, they don't want to. They want to make more commission. So you need the right agent that knows how and is willing to set it up like that. That's the first reason I tell people it's not really talked about much. Second thing is the most profitable policy for an insurance company. Term insurance. Why is that? You're 27, right?
Yeah.
If you get a 20-year term policy, the likelihood you're going to die by 47 is slim to none. The insurance company knows that.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Right. But they know you're probably not going to die.
Yep.
So let's say you get $1 million death benefit. You pay on it for 20 years. You outlive that death benefit. It happens 99% of the time. It only pays out 1% of the time. So 99% of the time, the insurance company collected all those premiums. Now you're 47. Well, I need another $1 million. Now you're more likely to die in the next 20 years. So what happens to your premiums?
It's going to be way higher.
Way higher, just to get the same coverage. So let's say, you're like, all right, I'm going to get another 20 years. Now you go to 67. You're more likely to die, but still not really that likely. You outlive that one. All that money went to the insurance company. Now, you're 67. You want another 20 years? You're not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, you're not. They're not going to do it 20 years on a 67-year-old.
You're just not going to be able to afford it.
Yep.
So for 40 years, you paid into something that they never had to pay a death benefit on. So what's always pushed? Term, because it's the most profitable for the insurance company.
Yep. I think you're 100% right, whereas it's super misunderstood. And as a result, there's a lot of life insurance that you and I would not be a part of at all. It's like you and I are not unapologetics for the insurance industry. Quite frankly, there's majority of people selling life insurance and pitching it are making their clients worse off for having it.
100%.
it's hard for me to say that, but it's just the reality and the truth. And so you're 100% right. The way that we're structuring these policies is like goes against the traditional knowledge. It's like, why would you want to make a fraction of what you could make? And it's just like, well, if you provide a ton of value, people come all over to work with us. And so it's like it's been one of the reasons why people work with us is because of our specialty. But the reason why majority of people don't do it is for the same reason that you shared.
Yeah, I get that question all the time. Well, dude, why would you set this up if you're making? I'll literally be totally transparent with my clients. Anyone watching this, they'll know. Like, yeah, Devin's told me how much he's made off my policy. I'll literally tell them, look, base is 25% of the total you're putting in. PUAs are 75. I'm gonna make this much off the base, this much off of the PUA. I'll literally give them my commission. If I did a regular whole life, it would have been this. They're like, then why would you do this? Why wouldn't you just sell a regular whole life? I tell them because a regular whole life is probably not the best policy for you.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Probably not the most efficient thing for helping you accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Great for your family when you pass away.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I both have seen overfunded policies have a greater death benefit.
True.
Because you're buying a ton of paid up additions. And so maybe in the first couple of years, it's not what it could be. But at the time of your death, it could be greater than a typical policy.
And we'll talk about that, how it grows.
Yep.
Okay. But people will ask me like, dude, why don't you just do the other ones? Well, it's not the best thing for you. Okay. If I do this policy and you have instant access to your money, and then with that money, I can show you how to pay off this debt, this debt, this debt, this debt, that you're paying all this money to, and you're losing wealth transfers, that money. Now you can plug that hole in your cash bucket. Now your cash bucket starts to overflow. You've got more money. What are you going to start doing? You're going to start telling people. And when other people say, I want to do that, where are you going to send them?
Yeah.
So guys, I have sold, I hate saying sold because I never sell a policy. I explain it. And then every call ends with, well, how can I do it? And then I'm like, glad you asked. And I just set it up. So since March of 2021, I've set up over 1,600 policies.
That's awesome.
So it's just like, I make a lot less per policy, but I've done so many policies that I still make a lot of money.
Yep.
Right? But let's talk about how the death benefit grows, because to my point earlier, we're building them with a lower base.
Yep.
So upfront, the death benefit is minimized, the cash value is maximized.
Yep.
Explain to people why over time the death benefit grows.
Yep. So if you were to get a typical life insurance policy and it was all base, and let's say the life insurance policy didn't pay dividends, your base, you'd continue to pay in the base and your death benefit would remain level. Meaning if you started with $1 million death benefit, it would stay at $1 million. Okay? So that's like a typical vanilla A whole life policy. Now,
to clarify on that, though, the reason why that is, guys, is because what you're putting in is guaranteed to reach that at endowment age.
Yes.
So that money is slowly growing into that number.
Yes.
Okay.
So now if you take an overfunded or max funded whole life insurance policy, we're doing a couple things. Number one, we're with a company that pays a dividend. Okay. So there's different ways that we could have that dividend come to us. And what majority of our clients choose is to do what's called a paid up addition, meaning they're paying a dividend and it's going back into the policy. But to do that in a tax advantage way, you need to buy extra life insurance. Majority of what we structure life insurance policies is what's called a paid up addition rider. What a paid up addition rider is, think of it as like a Legos. Every year that you pay a paid up addition, it's like you're adding Legos to your policy, and it's majority of it's going into cash. But to make it tax advantage, you need to buy little extra death benefit. So every time you use a paid up addition rider, that death benefit contractually has to grow to make life insurance, when set up and used properly, tax advantage. Mm-hmm. So every year that you're funding and every year that your dividends are getting paid to you, you care about the cash value buildup. But as your cash value is building up, the death benefit has to grow. Otherwise, you're going to get a modified endowment contract, and a lot of the reasons why you have life insurance in general is you lose a lot of tax advantages. So the death benefit is constantly increasing as your cash value continues to increase. And a lot of times, your death benefit is increasing greater than what your cash value is increasing. And so when people say that you lose your cash value when the companies steal your cash value, that would be true if your death benefit never grew. It would be true if you for 10 years contributed, then you died and you got $1 million. But it's not true if your death benefit is greater at the time of death than what you minus what you've put in. I don't know if that's making sense, but if over 10 years you put in and your death benefit is greater than the initial death benefit plus what you've put in, it's best of both worlds. And so a lot of our policies over time, it's just fun to see how they grow massively. And that's great because inflation, you want your everything to grow over time. It has to just keep up with the buying power that the US dollar is decreasing at every year.
So to your point earlier of questioning things,
yep.
Right? So I'm going to question something that you did and challenge you on it.
Yep.
Is a regular whole life. You're putting money in, and the death benefit's staying level. So I get this all the time. Oh, well, you don't get both the cash value and the death benefit. Well, yeah, because they're one and the same. The cash value is slowly growing into the death benefit over time, right? So let's say regular whole life, not what we do. You've put in so much money, your cash value is $500,000. Your death benefit's $1 million. You pass away. Your family is getting $1 million.
Correct.
Your cash value was $500,000. They're getting $500,000 plus another $500,000. They're not losing the cash value. You're not going to get.
But you can understand where someone could say if you put in $500,000 versus if you would have died year one, you'd only put in. You can see where someone can say that it steals your cash value, even though you and I both know that's not true. You can.
So you're saying first year, if you put in 10, you passed away, you're getting
$1 million.
Got it.
But now you were a sucker and put in 5 years and
so that's where I see what you're saying.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So it's not that you get less money. And a big argument is that's what a lot of people say, and they're not wrong with typical life insurance. If you Google or YouTube whole life insurance, and anyone that's anti it is going to compare life insurance and they're going to compare the death benefit. They're going to say you could buy a term insurance policy for X, or you could buy the same amount of death benefit with a whole life insurance policy, and it's yeah, I agree. I'm not here saying to try to cover your insurable interest with whole life insurance. We're talking about apples and oranges. We're talking about there may be a play where whole life insurance, when set up and used properly, creates more efficiencies for your dollars. Mm-hmm. But a lot of our clients also have term.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of term insurance. I'm a huge fan of convertible term insurance that gives you options in the future. Why? Because a majority of people cannot afford to insure their greatest asset, which is themselves, with whole life insurance. So we figure out, number one, let's protect you, because that's the first and foremost, the most important thing that we can do. And then if there's extra dollars that we can access to this, let's convert some of that into whole life, and you have best of both worlds. But at the end of the day, that's kind of the conversation that we have. So I'm pro term insurance, but it's for pure protection. It's not for anything else. Whole life insurance is not an investment, but I don't look at it as solely a protection asset. I look at it as multi-use for your dollars.
Yeah, so we look at things definitely differently, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't like term insurance.
Yeah.
Because the way these are built, guys, is, again, the modified endowment contract. We've talked about this several times. And I pulled up one of my policies because I want to give you guys some actual numbers. Modified endowment contract. This is something I tell people all the time. The wealthiest individuals use life insurance, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. There's a reason the Rockefeller family has become wealthier and wealthier and wealthier over 9 generations. They have trusts in place. They have life insurance with every single child that's born into that family. Everyone dies at some point. When they die, that tax-free death benefit goes into a trust. Trust dictates that the trust is buying more life insurance policies on the next child, right? So it's just a little bit of planning. In 1988, the Fed stepped in because really, really wealthy people were just dumping millions and millions of dollars into these life insurance contracts as a loophole to not pay taxes. And at the time, dividends were 16% on policies. So think about what you're making tax-free.
Yeah.
With no limit. You could buy $100,000 death benefit and you're putting $10 million into a policy to grow tax-free. The government stepped in and said, we need to make some guidelines on this. That alone should tell people like, well, if all the wealthiest people were doing it, why wouldn't I? Right? So I don't like term because it boosts the death benefit and makes it to where you potentially can't get approved for more policies. Because if you're using them the way I teach people how to use them, which is put the money in, immediately use it to go make more, be more efficient. It's compounding and growing over here. Put it into something that you know and understand. So you're hedging the risk outside of the policy. For me, it's real estate, private lending. For you, it's probably your businesses and different things.
Yep.
So if you can hedge the risk, you're putting it into something that you know and understand. It's not very risky. You're making a good return. As you make that return, you feed it back to the policy. You can only do that so much before it becomes a mech.
Yep.
You have to get another policy. If you put a bunch of term on there, your death benefit's higher. They might not approve you.
You're saying you don't like putting term in a whole life insurance policy because it increases the death benefit. I'm saying get multiple different policies.
Oh, just two different ones.
So it's like, hear me out here. You have a permanent life insurance, and then you have term insurance that can be converted. And then if you want to start another policy, you just convert some of that term into another policy.
I like that then.
But we definitely, I will say, and this could be a discussion that we have, we're less, like, we don't teach our clients to borrow immediately against their life insurance and how to use, like, for me, it's like we teach that, like, you can do this, but I would say a lot of our clients don't borrow against their policy in the first year, mainly because just if you look at in general, number one, we're not giving investment advice. We're not telling people what they should do with their money, but just in general, I want our clients to build a solid foundation. And again, like, I believe that emergency and liquidity, like, a lot of people should have 6 months to a year to maybe a year and a half of like reserve before they do any type of investing. So we're not like, there's a lot of our clients are like, where should we put our money? And I'm very careful to be like, there's a ton of opportunities out there, but I think I'm really careful to be like, we're going to teach you about life insurance and how it works, but I cannot cross a line about where to put that money, because that now we're talking about investments, and that's where you got to be really careful.
Yeah.
And I would say probably if you look at the way that we articulate versus like, we're just less about the whole banking. It's a great concept, but it's like, it's not something that we focus a ton of time on, because again, we're going back to efficiency and we're trying to look at your entire financial model and say, how do we be more efficient? That's why we're a big fan of life insurance. It's less about having your own bank, but the whole concept gets them the same type of product. And so it's kind of like, there's going to be multiple different ways that people articulate strategies. And as long as the person is better off for having meet you, I'm a fan.
Yeah. I love it, dude. So just two different ways of looking at it, and it's all the same thing at the end of the day. I think the problem and what people need to look out for if they're watching this and they've heard infinite banking and people talking about it, just be careful that you're not dealing with someone that doesn't do it themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
it's super hypocritical if people are selling something and actually not living it themselves.
Yeah. Like for me, I never, again, sold it. Didn't even have the inclination to do it. I had 4 policies my first year. Yep. I started my first one May of 2020. By December, I had 4 policies. And I was using them for everything. I did like 4 flips that year with it. I bought a rental. I multiplied the money 5 times on one deal just by how I moved the money from my policy and made a note to myself, paid the note back into a high yield savings account, just ninja moves. And then I hit up Chris Noggle, my mentor, and I'm like, dude, I figured out how to make money 5 times on one deal. He's like, what? I got to get you on like a case study. And that's kind of when it all...
That's what got you in.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So, just be careful, guys. If you're talking to anyone, make sure they know what they're doing, because you can get in trouble with policies if you don't use them correctly.
Yep.
Like if you take a policy loan and you don't feed money back to the policy, that interest that you're borrowing at compounds.
Yep. Yeah.
So what I do is if I take a policy loan, I make the money work. If it's working and making me more than the control cost, I'm making a positive arbitrage. But what I do at least is whatever that interest, that control cost is at the end of the year. So if I borrow $100,000,
That's good.
let's say it's 5% would be $5,000 at least.
Yep.
I write a check from my business bank account, $5,000, paying for that. So it's no longer compounding. And I just got a tax write-off on my business, right? So just make sure you deal with someone that knows what the heck they're doing.
Yep.
Or this can, it can implode.
Yep. Yeah,
You know?
and I think you said it well. It's really, really, really important that you're doing this with someone that understands what's going on. And this might be another thing that we potentially disagree on. I'm a fan of starting small and then getting more comfortable and not jumping full in. I know some people in the space that are like, put as much money as you can. And it's like, personally, it's like we're running a marathon, not a sprint here. And I just think if there's something that you can probably see in just how I communicate, it's like I'm a big fan of people, and I want to make sure that people are continuing to be able to show up powerfully. And I think that when set up and used properly, this is one of the greatest things that you can do with your money that gives you multiple benefits. I think like everything, there's people that overhype it and overpitch it. And unfortunately, it gives a bad rap to people across the board.
That are actually trying to do good.
Right. What I would actually love is to sit across the table with someone who's adamantly against life insurance. And I bet you at the end of that conversation, I actually believe I'm one of the best people to have this conversation with people. I bet at the end, like there's going to be like, we're going to have more agreements. Because I actually don't disagree with a lot of what they're saying. I just feel like misunderstood sometimes because it's like, man, I feel like you're not even understanding a fraction of what I actually do. You're just like reading a headline and being like writing this stuff off. But I think if like we actually had conversations, like if Dave Ramsey and myself could talk with no cameras kind of deal, with no ego, I actually think we would be closer to agreeing on almost every issue than not. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this thing. I think so too.
Like I would love to have that conversation. I would love it.
What I'm doing on my show is I'm having more conversations with people about their money, answering questions. I want to be able to have conversations because I realize that that's something that I do in private a lot. We've had conversations in private.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have more conversations in public and actually like conversate with people, disagree with people, but like I'm the type of person that can talk politics with someone, and regardless of what your political views are, you'll probably think higher of me at the end.
Yeah.
Because like I actually value what you have to say, and the fact that you have an opinion is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's like we don't
just
have to
because you don't agree with it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And there's things that I can learn by just seeking first to understand. Thank you, Stephen Covey. So it's like there's a lot of this stuff, and that's where it's like that's where I'm just grateful for our conversation, because I do believe conversations like this is going to better both of our clientele, but also better people as they're researching what should I do. It's like you're going to hear different perspectives. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah, 100%. One thing you said, and I can't remember where I heard this, but I've said it several times now, is ego stands for. So you're saying if there's no ego in the conversation, is a freaking beautiful thing.
Yep.
Because I've heard that ego stands for edging God out.
It's good. It's really good.
Think about it. If it's ego, it's about you. It's about me. It's about me. It's about me. What people think. Am I right? I'm this. I'm that. I'm that. That's God is not even in the picture at that point. It's all about you.
It's good.
And you as a Christian, I'm a Christian as well. I believe that it's God first before anything.
Yep.
God, and then I would say your wife, your kids, and then friends.
Yep.
Right? So when you have an ego, you're edging God out. Nothing good can come from that.
It's good.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It's good.
So I love that you said if no egos were involved, the conversation would actually go really well, and like you guys would have a better understanding with each other.
Yep.
I would love if for some reason, somehow, Dave agrees and reaches out to either of us.
Oh man.
Can like you invite me or I'll invite you so I
Dude,
can be
I think
there?
there's going to be so many amazing conversations, and it's going to be fun. Dave Ramsey lives in the town that I spend a lot of time in.
Perfect.
So
if you run into him, just
so we'll and yeah, I would love that.
So we went on a little tangent. I want to get back to the rising death benefit. So guys, this is a policy of mine. This is my second policy I ever did. It's $125,000 a year that I fund it for 10 years. After 10 years, I can only put in 50. 50 is the base premium. I'm overfunding for 10 years. So the death benefit at year one started at $7.6 million. Okay. Because of what Caleb explained, where the dividends that are paid, which is the insurance company's profitability, that is paying for more paid up additions, getting more cash value. As the cash value grows, the death benefit has to grow, or it's not a life insurance contract. It's an investment at that point. So they're going to tax you as an investment.
Yep.
So to keep it as a life insurance contract, there has to be a corridor between the cash value and the death benefit.
Yep.
So get this. Year one, I was 34. It started at $7.6 million. I'm probably not going to die anytime soon, right? Knock on wood. Likelihood that I die, let's say before 80, it's very slim. I don't live a crazy lifestyle. I'm very healthy. I work out 6 to 7 days a week. So let's just go to 80 years old. At 80 years old on this life insurance policy, my death benefit is $15.2 million. So when I'm likely to die, $15.2 million is the death benefit to my family.
Yep.
The cash value at that time is $11,500,000. So here's the crazy part. I could use all $11.5 million for whatever I want, right? Go buy an apartment building, go buy some houses, whatever. I pass away, my family gets the difference. So they'd get, let's call it $4 million, tax-free. Guess what they also get? Everything I bought with the cash value.
That's right.
Like, and again, the death benefit started at 7.6.
No bank is giving you $4 million income tax-free on death more than they have to. So that just proves the point of how amazing this asset can be.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It just has to be structured correctly, guys. It's a contract.
Yep.
This is the thing I love about it too. Life insurance, the first contracts were, I think, 1760s. I could be wrong on that. I know it was late 1700s. The tax code came around 1913. It predates tax code. It's private law. It's a contract with you and the insurance company, a private contract. So what that means is, one, taxes aren't a thing as long as it doesn't become a mech. So we already talked about how to do that. Don't overfund it too much. Deal with an agent that knows how to structure it that way. As long as you don't overfund it, it's not taxable.
Yep.
And then here's the cool thing. It's a private contract. It's a contract. Contracts can be written a million different ways. If it's written correctly, it can be the best foundational asset you can have. Hands down. That's what I tell clients. It is the foundation of everything you do. If money goes here as a foundation, you're just going to make everything else you do with your money more efficient.
Yep.
Right? You buy a car, you borrow from your policy. Instead of borrowing from the bank, you borrow from your policy.
Yep.
And you pay yourself what you would have paid the bank. You just made that car buying experience the most efficient way to buy a car possible.
Yep. Well, can we talk about that?
Yes.
Okay, so
Because I've done it 4 times.
yes, when I'm going to buy a car, my first question is, should I buy that car? Let's say yes. Second question is, I'll go to a bank or credit union all day long if they can give me cheaper access to money than my policy.
So you're saying if they give you a 2% interest rate,
Yeah, why would I borrow against my cash value at 5% if I could get 2% money over here?
I agree.
Okay.
100%.
Can I take it one step further?
Yes.
Let's say I could get a 7% loan at a bank or a 5% loan in my policy. What do you think Caleb's going to choose?
To buy the car?
Yeah.
See, that gets into how good you are at making money. I'd say the 7%.
Yes. Why? Because I value control of liquidity. I can value control of my money greater than 2%. So why would I eliminate some of my access to money to buy something that I could take a loan against? So the people that are using infinite banking to like pay off their homes, like this is where we'll have a conversation. Even the people that are doing it to buy cars and all that stuff, great. And maybe that's like the best solution that you can do. I'm a fan of using banks and credit unions because I understand control and I understand cost of money. So this is where it's like, does that mean I dislike life insurance? No. That I'm trying to save as much money as possible into life insurance. Mm-hmm. But for me, why would I pay a control cost of 5% over here if I could get it cheaper? Or why would I limit some liquidity over here when I could have an institution allowing me to take a loan? I still have cash over here, so I'm not in debt. Like, you're in debt when your liabilities are greater than your actual assets. But it's like, why? Like, I just value control so much more that I actually would use a bank or a credit union, even if it was greater than the cost of borrowing against in my policy, because I value control and liquidity. And I don't know what the next 3 years are going to look like, but there might be an opportunity that's far greater than the difference of 2%.
Yes.
So you're not wrong at all. I just think this is what's fun about having conversations is like, it gets people to think, and it goes back to efficiency. But efficiency is not just on paper, because it would be more efficient mathematically in that year to take the cheaper money, and your policy could be the cheaper money. But I also, when I think about that, I think of like opportunity cost and control and other things factor in. And that's where we can talk all day long about scenarios. And there's actually, this is why I want to talk to more people, is everyone's different. And it really comes down to like your financial IQ, where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish. For me, I love business. I love what I get to do. The thought of being taken out of business is horrifying to me. So I want to do everything I can to stay alive, stay in business. I will pay extra for that security. I'm able to show up more powerfully here because I'm not worried about next month's mortgage. So for me, you might look at my portfolio and be like, wow, you're sitting on a lot of cash. You should leverage your money and be like, make more. For me, though, I'm able to show up more powerfully because I have this financial situation. Someone could be sitting in the same chair and the exact opposite. The last thing that they should be doing is sitting on cash. They should be doing other things, because if they sit on cash, they're just going to go spend it. I'm not a spender at all.
I think that just comes from self-awareness, self-awareness.
Yep.
And I think you even said when you were like 12 years old, you were very self-aware.
Yep.
So that's just inherent in you. So I love that. In my opinion, infinite banking at its core, its very, very core, it's just making a spread on money. That's it. So if you borrow at 5 and you make 10, you're making a spread of 5, right? So to your point, if you can borrow from a bank at 7 or borrow from your policy at 5 and pay yourself back 7, you're making a 2% spread. But if you can take that same money at 5% and go make 20, you're making a bigger spread.
Yep.
So that makes more sense to an extent. It's all about the numbers. So like think about this. If let's say I can make a 10% spread, and by lending it out on private money, and my cash flow on that is that would be what is that, $1,000 a month?
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. So let's just say it's $1,000 a month. If that's what I'm making off of lending the money out, but I can pay off this car loan that's at 7%, and the car note is $1,800. The $1,800 makes more sense, even though it's a lower interest rate, even though I'm making less spread. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% following you, but that's...
We'd have to sit down and like have it written out.
Maybe we have part 2 and we have whiteboards and stuff.
Yes, that would be good.
That's my happy place, is whiteboards.
That would be good.
For me, I look at the lens of efficiency. The way that I measure efficiency is cash flow. And I think so you're 100% right. We need to look at other things from a standpoint of not just now, but in the future. And I just look at the lens of everything, like what's the most efficient thing. And sometimes efficiency doesn't show up in just what you could be earning in that year. Efficiency is like across the whole board. But I'm usually helping our clients be as efficient as they possibly can, which sometimes means they should take a loan against their policy. Sometimes that means they should take a loan against a bank or use a bank. But it's like, at the end of the day, my hope is that they're better off financially. They have less risk, they have greater cash flow and greater net worth. And so the fact that you can talk to someone who can coach you on that is going to be amazing. And I actually think like we're talking about like the fact that you're using a life insurance policy versus what majority of people are doing. It's like we're not even on the same planet, you know? So when the cool thing is when you have this set up, you have options.
Yeah.
I firmly believe the more options a person can have, the better their life's going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even have the options to choose because they have to go into debt or they have to use a credit card. They have to go to a bank. And so what I would say is like, I would rather have the options to choose. And every single person that has a policy gets more options. And I just believe greater optionality wins in the end.
100%. Dude, this has been so freaking good.
Good.
And we've actually gone over. This is the longest.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, this has been amazing. And I'm telling you, we could go for
Yeah.
several more hours.
Yeah, totally.
Easily. But we can't do that because we got to be respectful of everyone's time. And they're probably like, guys, can you
Yeah,
just...
he's like, let's wrap this up, gentlemen. Let's go.
So I hope you guys just got a ton of value. Again, you've heard me talk about infinite banking left and right. I put stuff out about it all the time. And just a different perspective on it, I think, is always good. Perspective is so big in life. Like, if you stand back far enough from something, you get a good perspective of it. A lot of times we're so in our lives that we don't actually have perspective of our lives, of what's going on actually. If you step far enough back, you get perspective, and you're not in my life, right? So you have a different perspective.
That's right.
So I can learn from that perspective, right? So I've loved this conversation. I hope you guys get a ton of value from it. Share it with whoever you think can get value, which I would venture to say every single person on planet Earth, right? So share it. Where can people follow you?
So you can follow me at my first name, last name, Caleb Guilliams, pretty much on any social media platform. If you reach out to me, I would love to hear from you, and whatever I can do to help you on your journey. Like, I'm a big fan of helping people live more intentionally, and I just want to commend you for watching things like this. Like, you are so much farther ahead than almost anybody. And so you can reach out to me anywhere. My email is caleb@betterwealth.com. Mention this show, and I look forward to hearing your story.
So good, man. I mean, reach out to him. I have, over the last few years, really made it intentional to get around people that are just high level, but also like heart-based, you know, because I'm a firm believer that everyone is energy. Energy is all around us. You're a form of energy. I'm a form of energy. The camera is a form of energy. It's molecular. Everything's moving. Yep. It's energy, period, right? So I think your heart gives off the most energy. You can tell when someone has a good heart. You have a heart of gold, man, and I appreciate you. Everyone else, I hope you guys appreciate Caleb at this point. If you didn't know about him, follow him on everything. Reach out to him, and put some questions in the comments on YouTube, because I'm going to be checking them. I'd love it if Caleb checked them. And then we just answered more questions that maybe you guys thought of while we were talking about infinite banking. But dude, it's been a freaking pleasure, man.
Man, I appreciate you. Love you.
Love you, dog.
Love that you're doing this podcast.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, I love you guys.